This week, I've got a comment from someone that watched one of my videos to thank. Really, that's what I really love about doing these videos is the way you can share ideas. And one of my previous videos, the pigsty one, a Brian MC commented on it on solo wargaming with miniatures, and said that he was thinking of doing a similar project because he'd got a lot of goats in stock. And that reminded me, I've actually got some goats as well. So I thought, well, yeah, I ought to do a small pen at least. Now, so that's basically what I'm going to do. And the good thing about it is I can raid some of these bits that I've used before that have been hanging around for ages. So basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a small pen, and I'm going to use these. I've only got actually two here, from the war. Is it Warlord? Yeah, Warlord. I think from their animal collection. I've got two goats. Now I have got a lot more, and they're by Pendragon, but I think I must have ordered them 3 years ago or more. And I don't know whether back then I ordered the right size because they look a bit too big for bolt action. So I'm just going to work with the two. So I'm going to keep this pen fairly small, just for a bit of interest sake on my farm layout. I don't necessarily need to use all these things I'm building, but I can switch them in and out as I do them. So anyway, what I'll do is I'm going to use some of this one that's, as I say, this is a right mishmash in here, but I like the look of this one for the goats because I think I could make the bottom like a concrete and then the wicker fence in between. So what I'm going to do is I'll clear my desk. I'm going to cut a few pieces to size, and I've got some of this, a little bit of this green mat left as well. It's like a flock finish. I've used it before in a project. I'll cut some of that to size and cut myself a base out of my, let me show you, I've got some black foam board. So I'll get all of that ready and get it on the desk, and then I'll bring you back. Right, so I've cleared things a little bit, and I've got my little base now that I've cut out of the foam board, and all I've done is just chamfered the edges down as normal. It sits well on the table, and again, with putting the fencing on, I'm not going to need to worry about it bowing, I don't think. But what I've also done is I've cut a piece of the flock paper that I'm going to stick right in the middle of it. So I'm just going to paste some PVA onto it. I mean, you could use just flock, but as I said before, I'm using this flock paper purely because I've just got a bit of it kicking around. I didn't really want to waste it, so, this being a small project, it seemed a good idea to try and use a bit more of it up. Because at the minute, I'm doing that a lot. I've kind of gathered lots of stuff over time. You do, don't you? You keep things that you think are going to come in handy for something, and before you know where you are, you're surrounded by it. So as well as building things lately, I've been making a concerted effort to use stuff that I've been piling up. enough on that. You don't want too much, otherwise it's not as effective. That looks about right. It doesn't matter if it slightly out, because I'm going to put the fence on. Now what I've done is I've cut some pieces of fence from that, the oddments that I've got in the box, and I've cut another piece in half and put a little wooden gate in the middle of it. So what I've tried to do is I've tried to make it so I've got the upright brick to join to the one that hasn't got one, just so it looks, more designed. Right, with this, I'm going to use a little bit of my UHU glue. Just get a bit of tissue so I can wipe off the excess. With this one, I think I'm going to use all the UHU. Just got to give it a little bit longer to dry. eyes. Same on that one. Right, so that's the little pen. Obviously now what I'm going to have to do is give that a little bit of time to dry. And while that's done, I'll cut out the goats and put them together, and then I'll bring you back. Right, well, just while I'm waiting for this to dry, I'm delicately trying to just paint the edge earth brown, because I'll put some scatter on this. My fancies are not quite dry yet, so I'm having to be careful, but I thought at least if I can get this done, it can all be drying together then. It'll just look a little bit better, you know, if there's any, you know, patches show through from the grass if it's got an earth finish. I'm going to put a little bit of mud coming onto the grass near the fence bit, because you usually get it a bit muddy, don't you, on a farm round gateways particularly. It does look a bit too pristine otherwise, so I'm going to drift the brown into the grass a bit just here near the gate. Like that, look. Perhaps see it better from the other end. Might just bring it out a tiny bit more. That's looking a bit better. Right, I think the other thing that I might do is just get the first coat on the bottom of the fence as well. And I think I'm going to make that a grey colour, so it looks like it's been built with like a, you know, like a breeze block or something like that. Right, so I'm going to go with some stone golem again from Army Painter. I use that a lot for this kind of thing. can see how it's going to look, and then I'll do the fence a different colour. Right, I'll take this away, get this painted up, and then when it's dry I'll bring you back. Right, well, the paint's dried now and it's glued in place. I did have my concerns about the two-tone paintwork that I did. Didn't quite realise how fiddly that was going to be. You know, painting in between all the little rails and at the same time not trying to touch the grey. But then I realised, hey, at the end of the day, if I miss a bit, it's not me that's missed it, it's the farmer. Well, that's my excuse and I'm sticking to it. So what I'm going to do now that it is dry, is I'm going to paste this with some of the basing glue and put on some fine turf light green scatter. So I'll just get my tray in. And we'll paint the glue on first. I won't paint in front of the gate. I'm going to leave that muddy. It's only small, so I think I can get all the glue on in one go before I sprinkle. Right. Just pan out a little bit. There you go, you can see a bit more of it now. There we go. That's got it all. Right, I'm just going to sit that in here and leave that to dry. And what I'll do in the meanwhile is I'll get my two, if you can see them, goats. I built them up and I've undercoated them. What I'll do now is I'll get these painted up, and then when everything's dry, I'll bring you back. Right, so I've painted up my goats now and they're drying. And I've also resealed the scatter that we put around the base, around the outside of the fence. While I've got a little bit of time, I just come up with a bit of an idea of how I could kind of make it look a little bit more interesting in the pen. And one of the ideas that I come up with is I keep these rubber tyres off old cars that I pick up on car boots and things. And I was thinking that I could use these as a bit of an improvised feeding container and water container. And also, you know, something to keep the goat busy. They like butting things. So I thought if I do a little pile of tyres around, you know, a log, which I'm going to make from this lollipop stick, it'd be like something that they can butt against and just make it a little bit more interesting in the pen, you know, to look at. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort out some tyres that I can stick together with super glue and use as my feeding container and my water container. I'll keep them the same, so I've got 4 of these thin ones, so they'd make a good little food container. Now I want a stack. There's a really crabby one here that looks like it could be off a tractor, so I'm going to have that as a bottom one. What's that one? I need a smaller one now for the top. Oh, that one. They're the same. Oh, hang on. I have to put that one there. Yeah, that'd work. If I have the log going through it to the bottom. I have the log sticking out the top. So about, let's put a mark in it. So it's about 2.5. Right, so I'll cut a piece of the wood off now. I've got one of these saws. To one side. Right, I'm just going to put a few, you know, scrape a few lines into this so it looks more like a tree trunk. I have got a little wire brush for doing this job somewhere, but can't lay my hands on it at the minute. So that looks a bit rougher now, look. Right, we'll just give that a dab of paint with a bit of Vallejo old wood. That's ideal. Right. That on. Let's put some around this one. Where's this other tie that I'm going to use? There it is. Just get a spray. Show you what that looks like. All it is like, you know, a few old pretend tractor tyres, and they've just put it round a log in the middle of the pen. You know, as a bit of a something for the goats to butt up against, you know, to keep them entertained. But it just gives it a little bit of interest in the pen. Just like to make it look a little bit different. And the same with these. If I glue these together now, I can get my little food container and water container out of tyres. we go. So they'll make like an improvised feeding container and water container, or at least to protect the containers that might be inside from being knocked over so easily by the goats. Right, that's as far as I can go at the minute because I've got to wait for that scattergrass to dry. So I'll clear my bench and everything, and as soon as that's dry I'll be back. Right, so it's not totally dry, but I think it's dry enough for us to put these in place now. So first of all I'm going to just glue my food and water containers. Just dip them in a bit of super glue. That should be fine. Right, and now I'll put in my improvised goat toy. Right, that's enough. Right, now I want to keep it back so I can get troops in here. Where can we put it? I'll put it here. That way it can get in around it, can't we? And the other little thing that I thought about doing is, I used some of this before, it's all the little bits that come off the doormats when you cut them into hay fields, and I've just kept a bit as rough straw. I think I'll put a little bit of bedding down in this, or I could put it on this side, couldn't I? Let's see, where would be best? I'll put a bit here. Just use a little bit of PVA for this. Should be enough. It's just really to give it a bit of interest. That is. Thick bit there. Don't want that. Like with the scattergrass, what I'll do is, when this is adhered to this bit of glue that I've put down, I'll just give that a quick spray just to make sure none of it starts moving around in use. There we go. I'll just show you that. So that's just like a little bit of bedding for them, really. You can see the toy and the thing in place. What I'm going to do now, I've got some like ochre coloured scatter, and I'm going to use that as feed. So basically I'm just going to put a blob of PVA in here and then just drop it into it. Don't matter if a little bit spills around it. I can blow that off in a minute. And any that sticks, well, it can just look like it's spilt out. There we go. Just wipe that off. Actually got a dropper somewhere. I've got a little bit of watered down PVA. I think I'm going to drop some of that onto that that's spilt round it, because it looks quite good like that, like it's been spilt. That's that in place. You can't really, a bit far out, but you can see how it's spilt around it. Right, I'm going to do something similar, and I'm just going to put a blob of PVA in the bottom of the water one. Drip of blue paint, and that'll set in there nicely. think what I'm going to do, on the basis that water's not blue, I'm going to put a little drip of soft tone into that to make it look a bit dirtier. Ideal. Right. What I need to do now is glue my goats in there. And for that one I'm going to go for the super glue. Give him a bit of a hand because I'm going to put him by the tyres. The other one's going to have to brave it on his own. Need a bit more glue there. Right, I'll tidy up and then I'll let you have a proper look at it, but as you can see everything's in place now, so it's just a matter of letting it dry. Right, back in a second. Right, well it's nearly dry, not quite, but I thought I'd just let you have a bit of a look at it so you can see it a bit closer up. It's a bit silly really, but it's just to give it a bit of interest value when all's said and done. For the game's purposes, it's just, you know, another little bit of scatter terrain cover. So if I bring some soldiers in, you could stand them inside. You know, or they can just be making their way along here, along the back end of it. Either way, it just gives a little bit of soft cover, really. Whether you class something like, I mean, you could class it as hardcover because the bottom's concrete, but I wouldn't have thought so with it being a wooden fence. So I'd give it a +1 really for that. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's rounded up the farm project because, you know, most of the animals that I've had hanging around for ages waiting to be used, I've now managed to incorporate most of them into a project. And with a lot of the battlefields being rural, it just makes it useful to have lots of different bits so you can swap and change it around and just, you know, make the table look a bit more interesting. But yeah, I'll add this to my collection, and I'll certainly have a bit more flexibility on the farm next time. Anyway, I'll thank you for joining me again, and thanks for the suggestion in the first place of doing the goats. I know I have still got the outstanding one about the doves. I've not forgotten it, but I may find a way of incorporating that into a totally different project at some point. But thanks for joining me, and if you've seen anything that's been useful, well, that's great. And if you have, please consider giving me a thumbs up, or even subscribing for when the next videos come. But thanks again for joining me, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.